A very good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the live trading webinar with myself, Giles Cockton. Right, happy Friday, everyone. Hope everybody's doing okay. I think we're going to have a very choppy session today.
Trump noting that he spoke with Chinese President Xi, and Trump notes that they are very close to a deal with Japan, and trade deals are going well.
Okay.
Russia and Ukraine coming along, Trump says.
Let's get stuck into it. Very good morning, good to see you. Let's start looking at the fundamentals. Fundamentally today, it's going to be a very choppy headline trade, and you can see straight away we've had a headline there from Trump just chopping against that selling. This is a sort of sell zone that price has moved into. We'll look at the technicals in a minute, but for now let's just focus on the main fundamental news. The major news is that Trump gave this interview to Time magazine, and he was saying that high tariffs are still necessary. And he spoke about whether tariffs 20, 30, 50% in the interview. And he said he was serious about trying to acquire the Panama Canal, Greenland, and serious about making Canada the 51st state. So really quite combative language from Trump on the Time interview. And let me just see what date that was. I think that was April 22nd. So that's 3 days ago. I think he would have softened a little bit since then. And if you notice Trump, one thing we're learning is that he is very sensitive. We saw his reaction to the bond market rising, and he quickly sort of changed his tone. So, we may see this sentiment turn around today. So just keep that in mind. I'm not going to go through all the headlines, but there are so many of them. China has then come out and said that the Chinese embassy said that China's and the US are not having tariff talks, and the US should stop creating confusion. So that gives you an idea. There's tensions at that high level, and the news that see that news about the Japan deal. He's spoken to very close to deal with Japan. So if Japan gets a deal done, India's getting a deal done. If we see some progress towards US and China, then we could see this negative sentiment turn around. So we're going to be flexible. We're going to see what the order flow is giving to us. And at the moment, this latest headline, markets are liking that and trying to push higher. You can see Delta pushing up on the news that President Trump is, close to a deal with Japan. So headline driven trade. Okay, here's another headline. Yeah, tricky. Hey, let's just see what that is. That looks like a strong headline. Just wait to see what it is, folks. It may present an opportunity. You can just see at the moment, buyers building here. This is a sell area, right? Because you've got, look, those sellers, those buyers here at this region. So that is a sell area, but notice the delta's pushing higher. So you've got to be very sensitive that this could easily turn around, okay? Okay, not seeing much, not much going on there. Okay, we'll keep an ear out to see if there is any headlines for that, but for now it's up and down. The rhythm from the session, it started kind of quite range bound at this top area, but then on these Trump headlines, markets just collapsed significantly lower. If you look at the hour time frame on the weekly,
Trump noting that they will end up with lots of good deals.
Okay, if you look here, prices
relatively unreactive to the most recent comments from US President Trump.
Right. You look, prices moved down to this weekly value area high. Okay. Got to be careful about selling into this weekly value area high. And you can see that's been support 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hours worth of support it's now provided. We've got buyers up at this level. They're trapped here. So this is a big level here at the 5,510. So that's worth marking as a very important level, the 5,510.
And do bear in mind, US President Trump has ended his remarks to reporters.
Okay, the 5,510, we'll just put that in here. Right, very important area, and you can see you've got those sellers coming in there at the 5,510. Now this is a complicated zone because the rhythm has now moved sharply lower, but now we're finding a base. And look at this. Do you see the divergence that's going on? Let me just point this out to you. You see the bullish divergence. So you've got price, sort of flat, even when the delta is making higher lows. So delta's moving up, price is flat. So when you've got price moving up and you've got the delta sort of flat stroke moving down, what you've got there is you've got a bullish divergence going on here, right? So just watch out, and you can see buyers have come in strongly on that last headline. So the first thing to be conscious of is this big level here we're finding support in, but this is a key area for selling up here. This is also an area for selling, but we've got to be wary of these session lows. So if you just take this on the 5-minute chart, all right, you can see at the moment price is just being dominated by this candle and it's sort of grinding higher. So it's fine to look for potential selling up here, but remember that this lows is finding support as well. And if you look at this on the 15, what you've got here is you've also got an opportunity for buying with those sellers getting trapped by buyers here. Okay, that's, buying to the bottom of the range, selling at the top of the range. That's what we're looking for. So I'll just put that down as the two opportunities. I would probably prefer buying because of the structure of the delta. So hope you follow the logic for that. So that's a buy area here. And you can see here buyers trapping those sellers, and that's providing a turnaround. Anything up here, if there's a turnaround with sellers, and if you start to see the delta pushing lower, then that's great. You can see I was just taking some shorts here earlier in the session when we had buyers getting trapped here and moving down lower on that. So the important areas, these are the important areas that are marked. If we just go to the 15, we can see them more easily, but just bear that in mind. No Najam yet here today. I hope he's doing okay. All right, so we're now in this little range, but delta's pushing up. So we'd favor buyers over sellers. Obviously, if we go down through this level, right, and we break out down through here, then there could be good opportunities for a move lower, maybe down to the 5,480. But remember, we've got this big value area that's providing support for now. And delta pushing up. So it wants the base here. I think we've got the sense of that. Now, on top of that, if we just look at the S&P 500 and we zoom out, look, price couldn't quite break out of those highs. You've got sellers there, but they weren't trapped. So we've got this potential false break of this area here. If we look at it on the futures chart itself, you can see that here. Look, the sellers, let's just see how close that came. There's the sellers, right, not trapped. So those sellers are still there, they've still got control. These buyers have managed to trap which sellers? These sellers here. So you see those sellers there have been trapped by these buyers. So price moving above the VWAP on the daily chart into a support area. So we're in a support zone, and that's why this is providing stiff support at the moment, and that's why we've got delta building to the upside. So buying from any moves down does continue to make sense, and you can see the delta's continuing to build, right? Even as we're moving lower. And here, 5-minute buyers, who have they trapped? Yeah, they've trapped these sellers here. Right, so we can move that up, keep the sell zone, but we'll also move the buy. You can see the buy zone there, okay? Right, sellers trapped by buyers. Right, so a pullback to this area is suitable for buying. And you can see here, you've got buyers trap those sellers here. I prefer a little bit of a pullback for this. I don't want to be so aggressive. And you can see, look, some sellers are coming in on volume on this. So, tricky, right? Looking around markets generally, I do see signs of stability. DAX Euro Stocks is up. China FTSE 100 is down. US equity futures are all down. Volatility is up, but only marginally. So I don't see anything massively worrying me there. I see reassurance in the bond market. You can see US 10-year yields moving lower. Good news right now. Stability in the bond market and people buying bonds, particularly US bonds, is positive. Looking at gold, silver, both of them a little bit lower. Again, that's speaking of a little bit of, positivity. Copper down, Brent crude, WTI down. So commodities are lower. In the currency space, we have the strongest currency of the day, the dollar, which is great news in the current environment because dollar positivity is excellent. That's what we want to see. Markets happy to buy the US. That does give us a bit more reassurance, but the Antipodeans are towards the bottom of the pack, so it's mixed in the FX space. Looking at the major, you can see dollar index trying to put some bids in futures sort of.
Just a post on X from Washington Post, Jeff Stein, on the trade. So there's a lot of chatter this morning that the Indians and the US are making real progress towards an agreement of some kind. The latest he heard is the US wants to lower Indian tariffs on US agriculture exports, in particular, and to scrap some of the clean energy work started with India and under US Biden, or former US President Biden. Does also note that Japan still seems further off as far as he can tell.
Okay, so India making some positive moves, nearly getting a deal done by the sounds of it. Japan further off, but positive. So I'm reading the sentiment as mixed, heavy news, but generally positive. That's the feel I've got, and we've got this sort of decent area. Look for potential buyers. And you can see here, those sellers there, look, those sellers there on volume getting trapped, and it keeps on moving higher. So we had sellers trapped here, Delta pushing up. Suddenly Delta comes down, but didn't move markets, and then we carried on our way up. Okay, just check earnings. Alphabet earnings came in last night and were very strong. So market's very happy with that. Good set of data results, but again, it's tariffs grabbing the headlines for now, and we haven't really got much to worry about in terms of earnings for today. In terms of the calendar, again, it's very light. We've got the University of Michigan final data point. Final readings shouldn't move markets much, but this inflation metric was heavily revised last time. Just be cautious of this today. It could move markets. And obviously inflation expectations, market's very sensitive to. So we've got to be careful around 3. Apart from that, I'm just going to check that there's no Fed speakers. I'm just going to have a look at on a different calendar. No, we've got BOE's green, but that's not till 8:15 tonight. Got Nigel, that's after our session. That's it. Yeah, pretty quiet. Obviously, we've got Trump out and about. Okay. Okay, we've had this slight momentum change, testing this area, very important area. This is where those sellers were trapped, buyers were trapped rather. Important area, buyers have control for now. Point of control is now there, the 55.14. We're up in this value area. This is gonna be interesting now. If we pull into this area here, I'm not interested in selling, okay? I'm only interested in buying. If we don't manage to close underneath there, I'm gonna buy so I'm gonna buy that just because we've moved up, but we haven't been able to trap those breakout buyers, right? Now, keep an eye on this, but those buyers are still there. So I'm gonna give it a second. I would expect buyers to maybe come back in on this. This is a buy area, you see. Maybe have one more position. If we go outside of this buy area, then I'll close the position. But otherwise,
an update from US Trade Representative Greer says they had a productive meeting with the South Korean counterparts on trade, according to a statement.
Okay, I'm out of that. Sellers look like they want to take it.
And just further from Greer, says that both sides agreed to engage in technical talks next week.
Okay, give it one more go with those. Just keep stops underneath there. That's not a bad area, and this is a potential buy zone, so let's see. Let's see if we break above this. All right, let's close that out. So these buyers have trapped these sellers. So that is a potential buy area. If we move back down to this 5509, I'll be happy to buy that. So it is the end of the week, and it's only been a 4-day week, but every day's been a green day. So that's a nice way to end the week. Exactly, and forcing trade, Anthony. That's exactly what we want to avoid, right? Yeah, timely comment, Anthony. So $203 profit today across the live accounts. Just a small, noticing volatility is just dropping. So maybe considering reposition sizing for next week. Just notice that each day, slightly smaller gains, just as the position, the volatility is dropping a little bit. So we'll consider about what to do about that next week, depending on how volatile things are. Might keep things as they are, particularly with the Trump headlines going on. All of a sudden, you can get sort of 50, 60 point moves. So got to be mindful of the increased volatility that we've got at the moment. So for the week, that's 2007.1 for the week. So that's solid. Month 3,503. So things solid for the week, solid for the month, and just got to keep ticking away at this and recovering from that real bad blip midweek. Today had 4 trades. I've filled in some of the journal. First trade was very nice, got trapped 15-minute sellers, buyers pushing up, and then we got that 1-minute confirmation here. Buyers on volume just a couple of minutes after the open, trapping those sellers, pull back to the VWAP, went long up towards those highs there. Great first trade. I will do, Anthony. Trade 2 was opening breakout range. Oh, let me just make that a bit. Was opening breakout range. Now, messed up the entries here because we had a breakout on volume, trapping these sellers here, but not breaking through the range. So we had about 4 minutes of indecision before the final break. So I entered, then exited when it wasn't breaking through quickly, because I'd entered slightly prematurely, and then re-entered once we had the confirmation on this candle. About 4 minutes we went lower, and made some profit back, but roughly flattish when all was said and done on that opening breakout range. So a little bit messy there, but that was the philosophy. It was a good idea and a good opening range breakout, and it was on volume, just entered prematurely. The third trade was trap sellers in a potential buy zone. Now this was going up towards the highs of the day and to the top of the range. I don't think it was unreasonable, and we had some buyers trapping sellers here in a buy zone. I entered on a deep retracement to see if I could get a little push higher, and as soon as the price went against me, I exited. So fair enough, just one of those. Nothing I can see wrong with that, except for maybe buying into the top of the range on a rangy day. That's the only thing that I could fault with it. Then the fourth trade was, hang on, let me just, hopefully I got that there. Is that the right? Yeah. So the fourth trade was a nice sharp move lower. You can see here, at the sharp move lower, delta moving lower. I know this is the mini, but the main standard lot was very similar. And then had trap buyers here. And when I got the trap buyers there, got the confirmation, just run it down to the lows of the session. I wasn't expecting that to keep going. We're in a big buy area, but look, can I run through with a little bit of momentum? Yes, I could. So key lessons today is keep focusing on the slope of the delta. No adjustment for tomorrow. Weekly use. Basically, I've done my report for the week and it's very, very similar to what I've put here. Good winning percentage. Losses were kept to an absolute minimum. And next week, focus on continuing structured entries. They're good. Need to let winners run slightly longer. It was better this week, but I still need to let them run a bit longer. And then, just watch out that I don't over trade, particularly after 3:30. That's my week time from sort of 3:45 to about 5. If my day's going to go wrong, it goes wrong there. So I've been deliberately this week trying to just sort of tighten up from 3:30 onwards. Probably I've missed some trades that I could have taken, but on balance, I needed to have no emotional over trading or revenge trading this week, and I've succeeded with that. So that's a good week. So there we go, folks. That's all for now. I hope you all have a very nice weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Have a good weekend.